Hey, Dalit.
Hey, Dalit.
A vine planted in a winepress or in a cleft is granted its tillage space, and one may sow the rest. Rabbi Yossi says if there are not four amas, but one may not bring seeds there, and one may sow in a house located in a vineyard. If one plants vegetables or retains them in a vineyard, he renders forbidden 45 vines. When? When if they are planted four or five apart. If they were planted six or seven apart, he renders forbidden 16 amas in every direction, in a circle, not in a square.
Okay, now hold there. So now I went and I consulted the wisdom of the internet, and because remember I had that question yesterday,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and
Right.
the wisdom of the internet turns out it didn't have to go too much further than our own Joel Kahan.
Right.
Do you know Joel?
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Um, so he came up with an answer for me, which he could put on what's it, uh, Judaism Stack Exchange, or otherwise known as Miodea. So he says the why it's a radius of 16 amos. Says Tosfos Yom Tov explains that as we find with an empty patch inside a vineyard at the beginning of chapter 4, that less than 16 amos is to be ignored in favor of the vineyard. So when one plants vegetables inside a vineyard, it forbids surrounding it the area which is ignored in favor of the vineyard. In other words, he explained better in his comments here that the point is that if the empty patch is less than 16 amos wide, then you can't plant any of it. Okay, well, you
Right.
remember that. Remember that if your empty
Right.
patch is less than 16 amas, you can't plant anything, even if you leave a 4 amma gap. Okay,
Right.
which means, which he reinterprets that and says that that means that an area of up to 16 amas is batel to a vineyard. It's considered part of the vineyard.
Right.
Okay, so why? So when I plant in the middle of the vineyard, of a full vineyard, right?
Right.
Then the area which is connected to the spot where I planted has a radius of 16 amas. That's his explanation to it. So I said, I said, yeah, I wouldn't have come to this conclusion myself. It doesn't seem like a logical extension of everything that I've learned. Like if I hadn't seen this Mishnah, I would have said just do 4 amas in every direction, and that's
Mhm.
it, and that
Right.
should be enough. But I'm not going to argue with the Mishnah, but
Right.
so at least we can try and argue, understand like why did the Mishnah say 16 amma radius, and that's the best explanation
That's
we
the
have.
definition. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. He's you have an exchange or something that you exchange questions or
It's a Q&A question and answer website.
what's it called?
It's called it's called Me Your Daya, but the URL is judaism.stackexchange.com. But
Judaism
I'll
dot stock.
stackexchange.com.
Okay.
I'll copy the link and stick it um, into here. Yeah. So that'll just show you the Joel.
Seems like a good place to look for.
There. So
Yeah.
you can look for answers, you can ask questions, and it's a very useful forum.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you. I just
Sure.
saw yesterday. My wife told me that she got something because she's on this list, and I guess Representative Haver is part of this whole list. I didn't even think about this. That on Pesach, on Shabbos day, you have to, if you're eating chumetz in the house, then you have to finish by a certain time because you have to have the beer. You have to be finished with it. You know, the burning of it and everything. Well, not on Shabbos, but you have to be finished with everything with the eating. So I didn't even realize that. You know, I forgot all about it. So
Hmm.
we use matashira. So
But in the morning.
in the yeah, but whenever Pesach comes, we usually done a week before. We try to get everything done a week before, so my wife has time to cook and do what she wants to do. And then the Shabbos before, we usually use the matzah shira. So we have, that solves the problem of any chametz and
Yeah.
all. I don't know. I got into that habit like I don't know 30 years ago or something. I asked the Rebbe about it. He said, "Yeah, that's fine. You could use that. Just."
Okay. Back to Mishnah Vav.
Okay, Vav. If one sees vegetables in a vineyard and declares, I will pluck it when I get to it, it's permitted. I will pluck it when I return. If it increased by a 200th, it is forbidden.
Okay.
Okay, Zion.
All right. Me now. All right. So here's a guy. Haya over bekerim v'naflu mimenu zeraim. So he's walking through his vineyard and he's carrying a bag of seeds. And what happens is a bunch of seeds fall out of his hand. or sheyatzu im hazvalim, or they went out, or it went out with the manure. Okay, when he was fertilizing the vineyard, some seeds got into it, or im hamayim, or they came out when he was watering the vineyard. The hazorea v'si'ara to haruach la'acharav, or if he was planting, if in a neighboring field to the vineyard, and the wind came and blew the seeds behind him, dafka.
Right.
Behind him, so he's facing away from the vineyard,
Right.
and the wind blows it behind him. In all these cases, mutar. So if something takes root over there, it's not going to cause kilaya hakerim, because it's considered not an intentional act. Okay.
We've had this before in some other Mishnayos that we've done. I think that if you're planting whatever, it blows behind you, then it's mutter. We've had that, I think. Correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've done these Mishnayos before, and
Right.
this is the
No, I
one.
remember in other Mishnayos, I think we've had this before. Maybe I'm wrong.
If you can remember which context it was, then maybe I can help you with that. Okay. All right. But if he's walking towards the vineyard in his field, and the wind comes and blows the seeds into the vineyard in front of him, then Rabbi Akiva says, Im asavim yofach, if they take, if he finds in his kerem sprouts that have come from these seeds, yofach, he has to turn over the ground with a plow in order to uproot all of the plants that took root, so that they shouldn't carry on growing. Vim aviv yenapet, and if now what happens if they've grown to the point where, let's say, it's grain, and it's got ears of grain inside it, but they haven't yet reached a third of their growth. Yenapet. Okay, so the word yenapet, there's some machlokas about what exactly the meaning of that. Reish Lakish in the Gemara says, in the name of Rabbi Yeshaya, that yenapet is that he must break out the seeds from their pods, from their sheath, because they are prohibited, but the straw is permitted. And Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Reish Lakish and says yenapet is ha'aviv v'yashchisenu, that he has to take out all of the produce and destroy it all, because the whole thing is asir b'hana. And similarly with the grasses, Rabbi Yochanan says that they are also with the asavim. If they're like just at the sprouting time, Rabbi Yochanan also says that they are still asir b'hana.
Yeah, Rabbi Akiva says that if they're blades, they got to be plowed up, and if in ear, they must be beaten, and if it produce corn, it must be burned.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the last case is it may be a dagan. So if it had actually ripened and produced produce tidalek. So now, why, if tachlis all of them are asur b'hana, why does he bring different verbs for each one? Because at each different stage there's a just different level of thoroughness to which you have to apply to in order to destroy it. So in order to destroy something that's just sprouted, all you have to do is plow it over and it's gone by itself, right? If it's started to grow, then you need to beat it and basically destroy it like that. But if it's already reached the stage where it's produced produce, then you actually have to burn it in order to destroy it properly.
Right.
Okay. What we also learn, Agav, is that Kilayim is caused by intention. If you have an accidental Kilayim, we don't punish anyone. If something just grows when you weren't intending it to happen, then there's a remedy for it. You can go and uproot it. You can do whatever you need to save your vineyard. But if it was done deliberately, that's when we're going to destroy the whole thing. Or if he sees it growing and he fails to take action to get rid of it.
Is that hold true for the fact that if seeds fell out and blew behind him and they started to grow?
Yeah.
That if he just leaves it like that, it's okay. If
he leaves it like that, he doesn't. So what honestly is the difference over here? Because either way, the way the Mishnah is phrasing it, it seems like he only has to take these actions if it blew in front of him.
Right.
But if it blew behind him, then you don't have to do this. Um,
It's still
so
Kilayim.
I think the difference is that if you saw it in front of him, and then whatever grows is going to be prohibited. Whereas if it blew behind him, if let's say a person's walking through his kerem,
Right.
and he sees a stalk of wheat growing in there, says, "Oh, whoops! I better take that out," and he rips it out. Now, is that stalk of wheat prohibited? If it grew by itself, if it wasn't through his act, then lichora, it's not prohibited.
That's what the Rambam says
Even the
that.
wheat is not even that wheat is not prohibited.
So the Rambam says that while sowing, the wind blew it and the seeds into the vineyard behind him, without his noticing it, and the seeds sprouted in the vineyard. It's mutter. The produce that grew without his knowledge is not forbidden since it grew unintentionally. However, if he notices such plants, he must uproot them, otherwise they become forbidden. So, is he allowed to eat that?
Right. So
He's allowed to eat.
that's what we're right. That's the difference between if it blows in front of him, because that's more of an act of that looks
Right,
more
right,
like an act of sowing. So therefore, if something does grow from that, then it will become usher. Not that it's going to destroy the vineyard yet, because whatever, it blew and he couldn't find a way to pick it up. It was just seeds, and if he
right,
plowed it over, then it'll still grow. It's not yet at the stage where you could possibly destroy it.
right. But the fruit that's
So he's
there,
got to wait for it to start.
it was if it was unintentional, it's mutter. But is it mutter for him to eat? Is that what?
So in all of the first cases where it just grew by itself, then it seems like it's mutter for him to eat, and he could pull out the kilayim and enjoy them.
Pull out
Whereas
the
if it was something that happened in front of him, then that's one stage more severe, and the foreign species becomes usher, and he has to destroy it. But
That's
his
interesting.
vineyard is still safe.
It's interesting because we learned in other Mishnayos that a lot of this is based on Marasayan. So if someone's walking by and sees him picking this Kilayim in the middle, even though it's unintentional and it's mutter for him to eat, they're kind of thinking to themselves, "Hey, like he has
Well,
to eat the Kilayim."
but Tachlis, what they're saying is that he's uprooting it, which is what they should be seeing. Say, oh, there was Kilayim in that vineyard, and he took them out.
But they don't know that
Not
he's
that
eating.
he walked, but if he walks through the vineyard and sees the wheat there and he waters it,
That's a
that's
different
not
story.
good.
Okay.
That's not
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Mishnah Ches, Hamakayim Kotzim Bekerim. Now, what happens if the species is something that's just like not edible? Kilayim Kerim is only when you have an edible crop that's growing inside the vineyard. So if it's thorns inside there, that's not an edible crop. It's not going to cause Kilayim Kerim, except in the eyes of Rabbi Eliezer, who says Kiddush. Chachamim lo Kiddush, ela davar shekamahu mekayimin. You don't. It's not. So Chachamim say nobody wants thorns in their vineyard. So just because if he sees the thorns growing in his vineyard and decides not to bother with uprooting them, that's not going to cause Kilayim Kerim, because that's not the sort of thing that you generally keep inside your vineyard. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees. Why? Because there are places in the world where people grow thorns in order to feed their camels, because the camels eat these plants. Okay, but Chachamim don't accept that. That's not a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Eros, Vakisos, Eros. Okay, the species. Iris. That's
Iris, a colorful flowered and sword-shaped leaves.
Right. Vakisos is
Ivy.
ivy.
Yeah.
Okay. Shoshana Samelech and the king's lily.
A white lily, it's called.
The kol minei zeraim and all these other inedible species.
Right.
Einam kilayim bekerim. They're not considered kilayim in the vineyard, as opposed to edible species. Okay, grain and vegetables. Those okay. It's only edible species that can cause kilayim in the kerim. The canbus is hemp. It sounds like cannabis and is hemp. Rabbi Tarfon Omer eno kilayim. It's not kilayim. If it grows in the vineyard, it's fine. Chachamim kilayim. Okay, why is it kilayim? Because people don't eat cannabis, and well, maybe they do, but for um, recreational purposes. But in general, hemp is used for fibers. And so the Chachamim say that it is kilayim over here. Why? Um, why? Oh, because maybe because of the crop. So even though it's not, so maybe I made the wrong diuk earlier. It's not about the edibility. It's about the crop, the fact that it's actually a crop that people farm, but people don't farm iris and lily um, and these other decorative things. It's not really any kind of crop where hemp is.
Yeah, hemp is used. Fiber is used for the service of manufacture of ropes, sails,
Hmm.
sacks, and the like.
Yeah.
Why would that? It's not something you eat. So
Yeah, so that's right. So I'm correcting myself. I was saying that it's something that you eat, but it seems like even I think, and we also said cotton. Cotton is also can also cause kilayim. You don't eat cotton, but you use it for its fibers,
right.
and that also causes kilayim. Okay, but kinras is an artichoke. Kilayim bekerim. I'm not sure why that was even a shaila. Um, kinras I'm not sure why artichoke was a shaila because it's an edible crop anyway. Unless in those days it was questionably edible, and
Right.
it's more of a modern thing that people eat artichokes. Um, anyway, Perek Vav
Yeah.
Mishnah Aleph. Okay, so
Okay.
up until now, we've been talking about vines that are on the ground. Okay, when we were talking, I mentioned it before that when we had this machlokas of Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai about what's a kerim, that you need five. Beis Shammai say you need 5 vines in 1 row, and Beis Hillel say no, you need 5 vines in 2 rows with the tail overlapping.
Right.
Okay, but that's all when the vine is growing on the ground. But when you have an aris is a trellis.
Trellis. Right.
Right. So when you have a trellis, then even Beis Hillel concede that if you have 5 vines on 1 trellis going in a row, that's a vineyard. That's called a kerem. Okay, so the question the Mishnah asks is, what is defined as a trellis? Hanotea shura shel chamesh gefanim, if you grow 5 vines in 1 row, b'tzad gader, on the side of the fence, shugavoa asar tfachim, and the fence is 10 tfachim high at least. So 10 tfachim it's not a particularly high fence.
Right.
Right. Okay. That sort of might take you up to sort of hip height, and that's it.
Mhm.
Okay. Or b'tzad charitz, or next to a ditch even, shu amok asar tvachim. So here, if you've got a ditch that's 10 tvachim deep, and so the vines can spill into the ditch, that's also counted as a trellis.
It has to be
B'rachav
four
arba, as long as it's 4
fucking
tvachim
wide.
wide, so it's got
Right.
space to grow inside the ditch. Nosnin la avodaso arba amos. So here it has the same shear as a kerim. You need to leave 4 amas around it rather than 6 tvachim. Okay. Now, Beis Shammai omrim modedin arba amos me'ikar hagefanim lesadeh. Now, if you want to know how do you measure your daled amas? So remember, the fence and the grapes are not overlap, and they're not on top of each other. You'll have a fence there, and a few centimeters over, you'll have the root of the trunk of the vine. So Beis Shammai are saying that you've got to measure your 4 amas from where the vine is planted into the field. Beis Hillel omrim min hagader lasadeh, from the fence. So you measure the 4 amas based on the fence. Amar Rabbi Yochanan bin Nuri, toim kola omrim kain. No, you're making a big mistake. Everyone who says this is making a very big mistake. Ela im yesh sham arba amos me'ikar gefanim v'lagader. Rather, if you have 4 amas from the base of the vines to the fence, nostim lo es avoda sova zora es amosar. Then you have to give it. Then you, oh, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. Hold on. I'm looking at the commentary again. Ela the arba amas that we're talking about here is im yesham arba amas if the trellis has 4 amas between the fence and the vine, nothing. Then you give the aris is avodas shisha tvachim. You only need to give six tvachim, like a row um, of individual vines. Bezura is a mosar, and the rest of the shetach that's um, is allowed to be planted. But if you don't have 4 amas between the roots of the vines and the fence, then you're not allowed to bring any other seed in between. Like, okay, which is an interesting opinion over here. He's saying that in between the vine and the fence, you could, if there's 4 amas between the vine and the fence, then basically you just treat it as if it's on the ground, and it's allowed, and you leave it 6 tvachim, and you can plant other things in between it and the fence. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and Rabbi Yossi say the same thing, but the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, so back to the Mishnah. Kama hi avoda sagefen? How much is the avoda of this grapevine? Shisha tvachim lechol ruach. Rabbi Akiva omer shlosha. In general, a single vine only needs 6 tvachim. But Rabbi Akiva says it only needs 3 tvachim in each direction. In other words, he says it's a diameter of 6 tvachim around the vine,
So
which the halacha does not follow Rabbi Akiva.
So we have a fence up, nothing growing there yet, and we have a vine that has now come from the ground up onto the fence.
Yes.
And is now sprouting east or west, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're talking about here. That this vine is coming from the ground up and has to have so much distance from the fence.
Well, okay. So now there's a little subtlety that we're going to have over here, and I think it's time for a whiteboard again.
Okay.
Let me quickly grab that. Okay. So let's say we've got this is going to be in elevation view over here.
Okay.
So let's say here we've got the ground over here. Okay, and we're going to have a fence, right? Here's a fence.
Okay.
Over there. Okay, and now we're going to have a grapevine growing over here. So the grapevine is planted over here, and it's growing up here, and it's been wound around this trellis over here, and it's growing over here. But the important thing is that the root is over here.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So there's our vine. Now the question is how to interpret our Mishnah when it tells us that there's that Beis Shammai say that you go from the root of the vine. Okay, so here's the root of the vine. Okay, and up to here is there. Oopsie, that's not what let's do it there. Let's say there, and in this direction over here is actually see that. Arrow right there. All right, so that over here in terms of text is 4 amos. Okay, so that's according to Beis Shammai. And
so you're saying the not near the fence, but on the other side, the 4 amos on the other side, that's the distance that's between the next vine that's growing. Am I correct?
Okay, so that's how much space you have to leave, and then you can plant other things over here.
Right. So now you're starting, and you still have to leave 4 amos between those vines that are growing. Correct? That's what
okay. So now this is our from our elevation. So according to Beis Shammai, you would have to leave these 4 amos over here, and then you can plant other stuff here. Okay,
The
according
other
to
stuff meaning stuff that would, if you planted it too close, would be Kilayim.
yeah, that's correct.
All right.
Anything other than a grapevine, basically. No vegetables so you could plant your spinach here. According to Base Hillel, you could plant your spinach over here. But that's only one interpretation. There's another interpretation that says actually Beis Shammai is talking about here, right? That when you're measuring that those Dalet Amas, you're talking about this distance here, and Beis Hillel is talking about this distance here.
Okay.
You see, so then according to Beis Hillel, you could only plant from here. Whoops, where's my stamp? This guy over here. Boom, boom, boom. So according to Beis Hillel, you could plant there, and according to Beis Shammai, you could already plant over here. In which case, it's a kula of Beis Shammai and a chumrah of Beis Hillel.
So
Because
the Beis Shammai one, from the root to outside of past the fence 4 amot, you can plant something over there, correct?
which part are you looking at?
Where your arrow is now, if you bring it down a little bit to where that line right there. So from where that root is coming down to the other side where the stars are, that's 4 amos. That's Beis Shammai.
That's 4 amas there. So according to Beis Shammai, you'd be allowed to plant over here, where Beis Hillel would say you're not allowed to plant here.
So he would be going from the fence over.
Yes, that's right. So Beis Hillel are going from the fence over here, so they're being more machmir in that case.
On the other side, though, we have from the root over 4 amos, and then Beis Shammai says you could grow over there, and Beis Hillel has from the fence,
yeah,
over 4 amos. Why does Beis Shammai give two? He gives two different.
Well, okay, so let's just take a look at the commentary over here. So the first way of reading this is that we're talking about the left side of the diagram, in which case Beis Hillel is being more makil, okay, and this is the interpretation given by the Ravad. The Rambam explains differently. He says that we're talking about the right hand side here, okay, that we're talking here about this side of the field, and since the vines are mixed up, are trained over the fence. So the fence is not considered a hefsek at all between the vine and that field. And according to Beis Shammai, yeah, Beis Shammai is actually makil over here, that they still only need the 4 amas from the base of the vine, where Beis Hillel are being machmir and saying that you need 4 amas from the fence on the other side. So that's the two different parashim. One is, so the Ravad is, I'll just put that into the text over here. This is talking about the bad. Okay, and over here is Rambam. Okay.
So the Rambam is agreeing. Rambam is agreeing with Beis Shammai, or
no, it's not. Nobody's agreeing or disagreeing with Beis Shammai. There's just different interpretations of the Mishnah. So the Rivad's interpretation of the Mishnah says that we're talking about the left-hand side of the fence.
Okay.
And the Rambam is saying that we're talking about the right-hand side of the fence. In which case, according to Rambam, this is one of the chumras of Beis Hillel and the kulas of Beis Shammai.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good. That whiteboard really helps. That really
sure.
Helps.
No problem. Let me save that now.
You have to get that published in the next edition.
Thanks. Okay.
You're gonna save that, right?
Yeah, I saved it. I'll share it with.
Great. Okay. Great. Okay.
Afterwards. Okay. Fine. Okay. The Chazaras base yud.
Okay. By the way, I got a message on my phone that said that the page that you sent, it says a page not found.
Oh no, just click on it. It's just that the link shows page not found for some reason. I don't know why. But if you
Okay.
click on the link, it'll take you to the right place.
Great. Okay. Okay, we have bait yud. Everything with a beit rova is included in the measurement of the bet rova. The space occupied by a vine, a grave, or a rock is included in the measurement of the beit rova. Grain with grain, a bet rova. Vegetables with vegetables, six tefakim. No, is that right? No, 6 amos. Grain with vegetables, vegetables with grain, a beit rova, and red Elias. It says vegetables with vegetables with grain, 6 amos. Grain overhanging grain, vegetables over vegetables, and grain over vegetables, and vegetables over grain, all is permitted, except Greek gourd. The Meir says also cucumber and Egyptian beans, but I prefer their words to mine. Kilayim. A bet of six tefakim by 6 tefakim may be sown with 5 seeds, 4 on the 4 sides of the bed and 1 in the middle. If it has a border 1 handbreadth high, it may be sown with 13, 3 on each border and 1 in the middle. One may not plant turnip heads in the border because it would fill it up, and Rabbi Yehuda says 6 in the middle. Okay.
Hiya. Raviot.
Okay. Grain which is given for fodder or for binding sheaves or similarly stalks of garlic and bundles of garlic and onions are not liable to shicha. Anything buried in the ground such as loaf, garlic, and onions, Rabbi Yehuda says they are not liable to shicha, but the comments say they are liable to shicha. If one reaps at night and binds sheaves and the blind person, the law of shicha applies. If he intends to take only the large ones, the law of shicha does not apply. If he said, I reap on condition that what I forget I will take, he is liable to shicha.
Because he's making a t'nai on a mitzvah in the Torah. You can't do that.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
An olive tree that has a name in the field, even as a netofa olive tree in its time, and he forgot, is not shicha. To what does this refer? To its name, to its performance, and to its place, to its name, and that it was shichoni or balchani, to its performance, that it yields much. To its place, that it stands alongside a press or alongside a breach. And all other olive trees to are shicha, but 3 are not shicha, and Rabbi Yossi says there is no shicha for olives.
Okay. Nida Yud Ches.
Regarding a woman who discharged uterine blood on the 11th day of her Siva days, and she immersed that night and had relations with her husband, Beit Shammai says they render tamei the couch and seat on which they rest, and they are obligated to bring an offering. Beit Hillel says they are exempt from bringing an offering. If she immersed on the following day and then had relations with her husband, and afterwards she discharged uterine blood, Beit Shammai says they render tamei the couch, the seat on which they rest, but they exempt from being an offering. Priscilla says the husband is an intemperate one.
In other words, it's a little bit less than Beis Shammai. It's the wrong thing to do. He shouldn't have done that. But there's no tumah here at all. We don't even assume tumah.
And they agree in the case of a woman who discharged blood in the middle of the 11 days of Ziva and immersed that night and had relations with her husband, that they render tamei the couch and seat on which they rest, and they are liable to bring an offering. If she immersed on the following day and had relations with her husband, this is bad behavior, and what they touch and the liability to an offering for the alcohol habitation is pending. Okay.
Right, so it's pending. Why? Because they have to wait until the end of that day to see if she actually bleeds again.
Okay.
They should have. She was supposed to have an entire clean day, and now it's going to be dependent on whether or not she manages to have that clean day, whether the tumor is going to happen or not. Okay, Hadran Alach Maseches Nida. Machshirin.
Concerning any liquid with which one was pleased at the beginning, even though it was not pleased at the end, or if he was pleased at the end, and even though he was not pleased at the beginning, it is included in the law of if water is placed.
Bechiyutan is the term we want to keep. The term bechiyutan, if water is placed.
If tamei liquids convey tumah, whether one was pleased or one was not pleased with the wedding. Okay.
Okay, base. We also got base.
Oh, did we do?
We're still in Machshirin, hey?
I thought we did two.
No, we
over
only
there.
did one in Nida.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yep, just one in Nida.
If one shook a tree to dislodge from it food or a tummy object, it is not included in the law of water is placed. To dislodge it from liquid, Beis Shammai says what emerges and what remains on the tree are included in the law if water is placed. Beis Hillel, what emerges is included in the law if water is placed, but what remains on the tree is not included in the law if water is placed, because he intends that all of the water it should be dislodged.
So according to Beis Hillel, whatever's left behind is not chashuv anymore because he was intending to get all the water out, and what he
Yeah.
left behind he doesn't care about. Okay. Kilayim Yud Zayin Vav.
The egg of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size. Rabbi Yehuda says one brings the very largest egg and the very smallest egg, places them in water, and divides the water. Rabbi Yossi says, but who can inform me which is the largest and which is the smallest? Rather, all depends on the estimation of the examiner. The dried fig of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size. Rabbi Yehuda says the largest one of Eretz Yisrael is equal to the medium size of one of the other countries. I've never been able to look in the supermarket and see the difference between a large egg and a medium egg. They
Right.
almost
And
the same
the other
size.
thing is that the small eggs don't make it to the market.
Oh, really?
So we're seeing the eggs that we see, the chicken eggs that we see are on the large side of the average, because the small ones don't make it.
I didn't know that.
I think that I'm not sure what they do with them. I think they probably sell them wholesale to food manufacturers who use them in whatever baked goods or whatever,
Right.
with the small eggs.
The olive which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is a guri. The barley of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is a dessert barley.
Is it? Yeah.
What did I say? Dessert? Yeah, there's
Yes.
missing an S. Missing an S over there. The desert. Okay, the lentil of which the rabbi spoke is neither large nor small, but of medium size, which is an Egyptian lentil. All movable objects convey tumah when they are as thick as an ox cord, one that is neither big nor small, but one of medium size. What is meant by one medium size? Anyone that has the circumference of one handbreadth.
That's the circumference of one handbreadth, and that's they estimate that they take the rough estimate of pi being equal to 3. So that means that you've got a third of a tefach across, and that would convey the tumah. Okay.
All right.
Sanhedrin.
Okay.
Scientists.
One who cohabitates with a betrothed Na'ara is not liable unless she is a Na'ara. A virgin betrothed and still in her father's house, if two men cohabitated with her, the first is stoned and the second is strangled.
Because the first one is the din of the Narim or Asa, and that's a skilla, and the rest is stam and adulterer, who gets chenek.
An instigator to idolatry is a common person who instigates a common person. He says to him, there is a deity in such and such a place, thus it eats, thus it drinks, thus it benefits, thus it does harm. We do not conceal witnesses to entrap anyone punishable by death according to Torah law, except for this one. If he spoke to two, then they are his witnesses. They bring him into court and stone him. If he spoke to one, he says, I have friends who desire this. If he is clever and says that he is unable to speak before them, they conceal witnesses behind a partition, and he says to them, say that which you said to me in private. The other says to him, to which he replies, how can we abandon our God in heaven and go and worship wood and stones? If he retracts, it is good. If he says, this is our obligation, it is proper for us, those standing behind the petition bring him to court and stone him. Included in this is anyone who says, I shall serve. I shall go and serve, let us go and serve. I shall slaughter an offering, I shall go and slaughter an offering, and let us go and slaughter an offering. And I shall burn an offering, and I shall go and burn an offering. Let us go and burn the offering. I shall pour a libation, I shall go and pour a libation. Let us go and pour a libation, and I shall bow down, I shall go and bow down, let us go and bow down. One who leads astray is one who says, let us go and serve idols.
So that's a fascinating thing, is that here entrapment is permitted. Everywhere else we don't try and entrap people, but avodah zarah is such a such a terrible thing that if somebody is trying to lead people away from avodas Hashem, that we're willing to be underhanded and try and catch him and get rid of him.
Yeah. A sorcerer who performs a deed is liable, but not one who craves illusions. Akiva says in the name of Reb Yeshua, two people may gather cucumbers. One of them gathers and is exempt, while the other one gathers and is liable. The one who performs a deed is liable, and the one who creates an illusion is exempt.
Now that I read this Mishnah over here, I actually really want to read the Rambam on this one, because I wonder how the Rambam reads this Mishnah, because he's of the opinion that all magic is achizas einayim. But he has a Mishnah that says that no, the achizas einayim is actually pater. It's only if you use real magic that you're chayav. So I'd be interested to see how the Rambam holds on this one. Anyways, that's for later.
There is a comment here.
Yeah.
It's a big a couple of them. All right. Okay. What are we up to? Sukkah?
Sukkah Dalet base.
Should have used my heating pad today. How is the mitzvah of lulav performed 7 days? If the first day of the festival falls on Shabbos, the lulav is taken 7 days. But if it falls on any other day, it is taken 6 days.
Because we only take the lulav on Shabbos if it's the first day of Yom Tov, because there the mitzvah is min Torah, and that this is of course in the time of the Mikdash. Nowadays, even if it falls on Shabbos, we don't take lulav on the Shabbos.
How is the mitzvah of the willow branch performed 7 days? If the 7th day of the willow ceremony falls on Shabbos, the willow ceremony is 7 days. But if it falls on any of the other days, the ceremony is performed 6 days.
So here it's different. This is about Hoshana Rabbah now. When you talk about the Arava, so the Aravas that we're talking about these are not the Aravas that are part of the lulav, because that's part of the lulav. We're talking about here in the Mikdash, where they would take the Aravos. There was a special thing of the Aravos in the Mikdash that they would take and stick them by the side of the Mizbeach, and they would do that every day, except for Shabbos, unless Shabbos fell out on Hoshana Rabbah.
There was a place, I can't remember the name of it now. You pass it when you're going into Yerushalayim.
Motza.
Yeah. And they were very big. They were like almost only like 20 amot pi or something, or 20 fucking.
Yeah, they were big. That's right. So the commentary of this Mishnah gives you all the sizes of the things and what they would do with it. Okay.
How is the mitzvah of lulav performed? If the first day of Sukkot fell on the Sabbath, they bring their lulav to the Temple Mount, and the attendants receive the lulav from them and arrange them upon the bench. But the elderly place theirs in a chamber, and they teach them to say, "My lulav is presented as a gift to whomever it may come." On the morrow, they rise early and come. The attendants throw the lulav before them, and they would snatch them, striking one another. That must have been really.
That's the minhag. That's the minhag, is we beat each other up to try and get the lulav.
When the Basin saw that they were in danger, they ordained that everyone should take his lulav at home. Okay.
Yeah. Some rulings for sensibility.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Enjoy.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Thank you.